7-year-old Owen sat in the back of the classroom, his hood pulled low over his face. His eyes, those impossible golden eyes with slit pupils like a cat or something far more dangerous, had started glowing again. It happened whenever he got excited or scared, and right now, with Mrs. Patterson asking him to come to the board, he was absolutely terrified. "Owen, we're waiting," the teacher said gently, her kind smile doing nothing to calm his racing heart. His mother, Rebecca, had warned him this morning while making breakfast. "Keep calm, sweetheart. Calm means dim." She'd kissed his forehead and adjusted his hood. "Just breathe and think quiet thoughts." But staying calm was hard when 23 other kids would be staring at you, and any one of them might notice what made you different. Owen stood slowly, keeping his head down as he walked to the board. His hands trembled as he picked up the marker. The math problem was easy, multiplication had always made sense to him. He wrote the answer quickly, his neat numbers filling the white space. 42. He'd solved it in his head before even standing up. As he turned back toward his desk, a boy named Tyler sitting in the third row suddenly gasped loud enough for everyone to hear. His eyes are glowing." The classroom erupted in whispers and gasps. Kids leaned forward in their seats. Someone said whoa and someone else said that's so weird, and Owen felt his chest getting tight, his breathing getting faster, which only made his eyes glow brighter. The golden light reflected off the whiteboard behind him. Mrs. Patterson stood up quickly. "Class, settle down. Owen, it's okay, just." But Owen ran. He dropped the marker and bolted for the door, his hood falling back as he sprinted down the hallway. Behind him, he could hear Mrs. Patterson calling his name, but he didn't stop until he reached the bathroom at the end of the hall. He locked himself in a stall and put his hands over his face, trying desperately to make the glowing stop. "Please, please, please," he whispered to himself. "Go away. Just be normal." That afternoon, a sleek government vehicle landed outside their small colony home on the outskirts of New Portland settlement. Owen watched from his bedroom window as a man in a gray uniform stepped out, tall, thin, with a face that looked like it had forgotten how to smile. 2 other officers flanked him, both carrying data tablets and scanning equipment. Owen's stomach dropped. He'd seen vehicles like that before on the news. They came when something was wrong, when the government needed to investigate something dangerous. He crept to the top of the stairs and listened. "Mrs. Hayes," the man said to Rebecca at the door, his voice cold and official. "My name is Inspector Gerald Moss from the Galactic Council's Genetic Compliance Division. We've received multiple reports of unauthorized genetic modification in your son. I'm here to take samples and determine if he needs to be relocated to a research facility for the safety of the colony." Owen heard his mother's sharp intake of breath. "Our son is naturally born. We have all the medical records from the hospital. Every single test and scan." His father Daniel stepped forward, his voice firm. "Owen is our biological child. Nothing about him is modified or engineered. This is just how he was born." "Records can be falsified, Mr. Hayes," Moss replied coldly. "Genetic modification is illegal under council law for good reason. Enhanced humans have caused significant problems in other systems. The boy comes with me for testing, or I shut down this entire colony for harboring illegal experiments. Those are your options." Owen felt sick. They wanted to take him away. Lock him up somewhere. Study him like he was some kind of experiment gone wrong. "You can't do this," Rebecca said, her voice breaking. "He's just a child. He's 7 years old." "Which is precisely why early intervention is necessary," Moss responded. "The younger enhanced individuals are contained, the less damage they can cause. I'll give you 1 hour to prepare him for transport." The adults argued for another 10 minutes, their voices rising and falling, but Owen couldn't listen anymore. He slipped down the stairs and out the back door while they were all focused on each other. He needed to think, to breathe, to figure out what was happening to him. The woods behind their house had always been his safe place. The tall trees made him feel small in a good way, like his problems couldn't find him under all those branches. He walked deeper into the forest, following the narrow path he'd walked 100 times before. The sun was setting, casting orange light through the leaves. Owen found his favorite spot, a small clearing with a fallen log he liked to sit on. He pulled his knees up to his chest and tried not to cry. That's when he heard the growl. It started low, like distant thunder, then grew louder. Owen's head snapped up, his heart suddenly pounding so hard it hurt. A razorback stepped into the clearing. Owen had seen pictures of them in school. They were the apex predators on this planet, massive creatures the size of a bear, covered in thick gray hide with blade-like spines running down their backs. Their teeth were designed for tearing meat. Their claws could rip through metal. The teachers had warned all the kids, if you see a razorback, you run and you scream for help. But Owen couldn't move. His legs wouldn't work. He was frozen on that log, staring at the creature as it moved closer, its red eyes locked on him. His own eyes began to glow. He couldn't stop it. Terror flooded through him, and the golden light poured out brighter than it ever had before, illuminating the entire clearing like someone had turned on a spotlight. The razorback stopped. Its massive head tilted slightly, studying him. Owen could see its hot breath in the cooling evening air. Could smell the wild, dangerous scent of it. Then, impossibly, the creature lowered its enormous head. Its front legs bent, and its whole body went down in a gesture that looked almost like respect? Like it was bowing? Owen sat completely still, barely breathing, as the razorback held that position for several long seconds. Then it slowly backed away, its eyes never leaving Owen's glowing ones, until it turned and disappeared into the darkening forest. Owen sat there shaking, his mind trying to understand what had just happened. A predator had bowed to him. A creature that should have attacked him, that should have seen him as prey, had bowed like he was something important. Something powerful. What was he? The question followed him all the way home, where his parents were frantically searching for him. Rebecca grabbed him in a hug so tight he could barely breathe, and Daniel kept checking him over to make sure he wasn't hurt. But Owen couldn't stop thinking about those red eyes meeting his golden ones. Couldn't stop wondering what the razorback had seen in him that made a predator bow down. Inspector Moss had left, but he'd promised to return in the morning with a full team. That night, Owen lay in bed staring at the ceiling, his eyes still faintly glowing in the darkness. Somewhere in the forest, a razorback was probably sleeping. And somewhere in the city, a government inspector was preparing to take him away. But deep down, in a place Owen didn't understand yet, something ancient was beginning to wake up. Something that had been sleeping in his blood since the day he was born, waiting for the right moment to emerge. His eyes flickered brighter for just a moment, then dimmed as he finally drifted off to sleep, dreaming of creatures with scales and wings that felt somehow like home. 5 years had passed since that day in the classroom, and Owen was barely sleeping anymore. The dreams had started on his 12th birthday, right at midnight. He'd woken up gasping, his sheets soaked with sweat, his eyes blazing so bright they lit up his entire bedroom like golden lanterns. And in his mind, the image was burned so clearly he could still see it with his eyes open, a massive creature with scales that looked like mountains, wings that could block out the sun, and eyes that matched his own perfectly. Every single night after that, the same dream. The same creature. The same feeling of being called home to a place he'd never been. Come to me, little brother. The words weren't spoken out loud. They were feelings, emotions, a pull so strong that Owen would wake up with his hand stretched toward his bedroom window, reaching for something impossibly far away. His eyes didn't dim anymore. Not even a little bit. They glowed constantly now, even in bright daylight, casting golden light across whatever he looked at. Rebecca had pulled him out of school 2 years ago. There was no hiding it anymore. No more hoods or dark glasses or excuses. His eyes burned like small suns, and nothing could change that. He spent his days in the house, reading, studying from home programs, and trying not to think about how lonely it felt to have no friends, no normal life, nothing but these dreams and these eyes that marked him as different. Daniel spent every free moment in the colony archives, searching through old Earth records, alien databases, anything that might explain what was happening to his son. Their dining room table was covered in data tablets and printed files, some of them so old they were actual paper that crinkled when you touched it. One evening, just after dinner, Daniel burst into Owen's room without knocking. His hands were shaking as he held up a data tablet, his eyes wide with something between fear and excitement. I found something, Daniel said breathlessly. Owen, I found something important. Owen sat up on his bed, closing the book he'd been reading. What is it? Daniel sat down beside him, pulling up files on the tablet. Ancient records from Earth, from before we left for the stars. There were legends about dragons, but son, they weren't just legends. These are official records. Scientific observations. Historical documents. Dragons were real. Owen stared at the images on the screen. Massive winged creatures, some drawings, some that looked almost like photographs but hazier, older. But dragons are extinct, Dad. Everyone knows that. They died out thousands of years ago. That's what we're told, Daniel said, scrolling through more files. But look at this. There are records here about bonding. About certain humans who formed connections with dragons. And Owen. He pulled up an old image, a drawing of a person with glowing eyes. Those humans had eyes exactly like yours. The same golden color. The same pupils. Owen's heart started beating faster. What does that mean? I don't know yet, Daniel admitted. But what if dragons aren't extinct? What if they're just waiting somewhere? What if whatever is calling to you in your dreams is real? That night, the dream changed. Instead of just images and feelings, Owen heard words. Clear, distinct words that rumbled through his mind like thunder rolling across the sky. They are coming for you, little brother. The ones who fear what they do not understand. You must come to me, or they will cage you. They will use you as a weapon. Follow the stars I show you. Follow them home. The dragon's massive head turned, looking up at a sky filled with unfamiliar constellations. And somehow, impossibly, Owen understood them. He saw the patterns, the route, the exact coordinates of where he needed to go. When he woke up, the information was still there in his mind, as clear as his own address, as familiar as his own name. He grabbed a tablet and started writing down the coordinates before he could forget them, even though something told him he never would. They were part of him now. The next morning started normal enough. Rebecca made breakfast while Daniel reviewed his research. Owen sat at the table, pushing his eggs around on his plate, trying to figure out how to tell his parents about the coordinates in his head. Then they heard the ships. Multiple engines, heavy military-grade transports, landing right outside their house. Owen ran to the window and felt his stomach drop. 6 vehicles this time, all government issue, all surrounded by armed soldiers in tactical gear. Inspector Moss stepped out of the lead vehicle, and this time he didn't bother knocking. His voice boomed through an electronic speaker, loud enough to rattle the windows. Owen Hayes, this is the Galactic Council Security Division. You are classified as a potential Class A threat to colony safety. Exit the building immediately with your hands visible. You have 30 seconds to comply. Rebecca's face went pale. They can't do this. He's just a boy. We're not letting them take him, Daniel said firmly, moving toward the door. Dad, don't, Owen said, fear flooding through him. They have guns. Owen Hayes, you have 15 seconds. Owen's eyes began blazing brighter, his fear and anger mixing together into something he couldn't control. His whole body felt hot, like something inside him was trying to break free. Rebecca stood in front of the door, her voice shaking but determined. You'll have to go through me first. That can be arranged, Moss's cold voice replied. 10 seconds. Owen couldn't let this happen. Couldn't let his parents get hurt because of him. He pushed past them and opened the door himself, stepping out onto the porch with his hands up. I'll go, he called out. Just don't hurt them. Please. Moss smiled, a thin expression without any warmth. Smart choice, son. Now come down here slowly. But as Owen stepped off the porch, something inside him snapped. The voice from his dream roared through his mind, do not let them cage you. And power exploded out of him without warning. Golden energy burst from his body in a wave, a barrier of pure light that expanded outward like a shockwave. Soldiers were thrown backward. Equipment sparked and died. Vehicle windows shattered. The very air seemed to shimmer and burn with the force of it. Owen stood in the center of it all, his eyes blazing like stars, his body surrounded by that golden glow. He could feel the power coursing through him, ancient, vast, terrifying in its strength. Moss scrambled backward, his confident expression replaced by genuine fear. What are you? The voice in Owen's mind spoke clearly, you are dragon-touched, little brother. Now run. Come to me. Time grows short. Daniel grabbed Owen's arm. The shuttle pad. Now. They ran. All 3 of them, racing across their yard toward the small landing area where Daniel's friend kept a cargo ship. Behind them, Moss was screaming orders, but the golden barrier was still holding, crackling with energy that made the air taste like lightning. The cargo ship belonged to Leo, a trader who'd known Daniel since before Owen was born. He was already in the pilot's seat, engines warming up, when they came running up the ramp. Get in, get in. Leo shouted. I saw what happened from here. We need to leave right now. The ramp closed behind them as soldiers finally broke through the barrier. Weapons fired, but Leo was already lifting off, pushing the engines hard. The ship shuddered as shots hit the hull, but none penetrated. They climbed fast, then faster, racing toward the upper atmosphere. Where are we going? Leo asked, his hands flying over the controls. Owen closed his eyes and saw the coordinates again, burning in his mind. He spoke them aloud, his voice sounding strange to his own ears, layered somehow, as if someone else was speaking with him. The forbidden reaches. Leo's voice cracked. Kid, that's a quarantine zone. Nobody goes there. It's suicide. That's where we're going, Daniel said firmly. Rebecca held Owen close as the ship jumped to hyperspace, the stars outside stretching into lines of light. Council pursuit ships were already launching behind them, but they had a head start. A small one, but maybe enough. Owen pressed his hand against the cold window, staring out at the infinite darkness rushing past. His eyes reflected in the glass, golden and bright and completely inhuman. In his mind, the voice rumbled with approval. Good, little brother. Hurry now. I have waited 10,000 years. I can sense you coming at last. I'm coming, Owen whispered back, not caring that his parents could hear him talking to something that wasn't there. I don't know what I am, but I'm coming. The ship hurtled deeper into space, carrying a 12-year-old boy toward a destiny that had been written in his blood since the day he was born. Behind them, the Galactic Council mobilized their forces. Ahead of them, in a forgotten corner of the galaxy, something ancient stirred from its long sleep. The dragon was waiting. And Owen was finally coming home. The cargo ship jumped to hyperspace barely 2 minutes ahead of the Council pursuit vessels. Owen watched through the rear viewport as the flashing lights of their engines disappeared into streaks, then vanished completely as Leo pushed the ship faster than it was probably meant to go. This is insane, Leo muttered from the pilot's seat, constantly checking his instruments. Completely insane. Do you know what they say about the forbidden reaches? Ships go in. They don't come out. There's a reason it's quarantined. We don't have a choice, Rebecca said quietly, still holding Owen close. She hadn't let go of him since they'd boarded, as if she was afraid he might disappear if she released her grip. Daniel was studying the star charts on a secondary screen, tracing the route to the coordinates Owen had given them. We'll need to stop for supplies. The reaches are 3 days away at maximum speed, and we're not equipped for that kind of journey. There's a trading station at the edge of Council space, Leo said. Rust Haven. It's not exactly a nice place, but they don't ask questions and they take cash. We can refuel there, grab some food and water. Owen barely heard them talking. His eyes were fixed on the stars rushing past, and in his mind, he could feel something pulling him forward. The dragon's presence was stronger now, like a heartbeat that matched his own, getting louder with every passing hour. Rust Haven looked exactly like its name suggested, a massive collection of old ships and metal platforms bolted together in a chaotic mess, floating in the darkness like a rusty island. Hundreds of different species moved through its crowded corridors. The air smelled like fuel and cooking food and unwashed bodies all mixed together. The moment Owen stepped off Leo's ship, walking down the ramp onto the station's main dock, everything changed. Conversations stopped. A four-armed merchant carrying crates of strange fruit dropped everything, the containers clattering to the metal floor. A group of insect-like aliens froze mid-step. Even the background noise of the station seemed to dim. Everyone was staring at Owen. At his eyes. Dragon-marked, the four-armed merchant whispered in heavily accented English, his voice filled with something that sounded like awe. Or fear. Maybe both. Impossible. The dragon-marked are extinct. More whispers spread through the crowd like wildfire. Dragon-marked. Look at his eyes. Thought they were all gone. Could be worth a fortune. That last comment made Daniel tense. He stepped closer to Owen, his hand on his son's shoulder. We need to move. Now. But it was too late. A crowd was forming around them, some people backing away in fear, others pushing forward with expressions that made Owen's skin crawl. He could see it in their eyes. They were looking at him like he was valuable. Like he was something to be captured and sold. Back off, Leo said loudly, pulling a small plasma pistol from his belt. The kid's not for sale, and we're just here for supplies. A rough-looking alien with gray skin and too many teeth laughed. That marking on a human? Do you know what the black market would pay for him? Millions. Maybe billions. That's walking retirement right there. More people were closing in now. Owen counted at least a dozen, and they all had weapons. His heart started racing, and his eyes began glowing brighter, which only made people stare more. Rebecca, get behind me, Daniel said, trying to position himself between the crowd and his family. I wouldn't do that if I were you. The voice was deep, female, and absolutely commanding. The crowd parted, and a tall figure pushed through. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, with green scales covering her skin and amber eyes that seemed to glow in the station's dim lighting. Her body was muscular and powerful, clearly built for combat. She wore simple armor and carried 2 long blades strapped to her back. My name is Vera, she said, looking directly at Owen. And if you bear the true dragon mark, then by the ancient oaths of my people, I am bound to protect you. We don't need protection from, Leo started. Yes, you do, Vera interrupted, gesturing at the crowd around them. Because in about 10 seconds, these bounty hunters are going to try to take him. And unless you can fight off 12 armed criminals, you're going to fail. As if to prove her point, one of the gray-skinned aliens reached for a weapon. Vera moved faster than Owen's eyes could track. One moment she was standing still, the next she disarmed the alien and had him pinned against a wall with his own gun pointed at his head. Anyone else want to try? She asked calmly. The crowd hesitated, but Owen could see them calculating, weighing the risk. There were more of them than there were of Vera. They were still considering it. Run, Vera said without looking back at them. I'll cover you. Go. Daniel grabbed Owen's arm and they ran, Rebecca and Leo right behind them. Behind them, Owen heard the sounds of fighting, weapons firing, metal clanging against metal, Vera's voice shouting warnings in a language he didn't understand. They made it back to the ship, and Leo immediately started the launch sequence. Where is she? He shouted. We can't leave her. You won't have to, came Vera's voice from behind them. She sprinted up the ramp just as it started closing, a cut on her arm bleeding green blood, but otherwise looking completely unfazed. The moment she was inside, Leo hit the controls and the ship lifted off with a lurch that threw them all sideways. Weapons fire pinged off the hull as they climbed away from the station, but within seconds they were clear, jumping back into hyperspace. For a long moment, everyone just sat there breathing hard. Then Rebecca turned to Vera. Why did you help us? Vera was wrapping her wounded arm with a cloth from her pack, moving with practiced efficiency. Because my people served the dragons before the Great Silence, 10,000 years ago. We were honored to fight beside them, to learn from them. When they disappeared, we thought that chapter of our history was over. She looked at Owen directly. But if you carry the true mark, if you're being called, then the ancient oaths still bind us. Where you go, I go. Until you reach the last dragon or until I die protecting you. The last dragon? Owen asked, his voice barely a whisper. You know about him. Every reptilian species in the galaxy knows the legends, Vera said. Azarenth. The one who refused to fade. The one who waits in the forbidden reaches for the day when the dragon marked would return. She studied Owen carefully. Is that where you're going? Owen nodded slowly. He's calling me. I can feel him. Every second, I can feel him getting closer. Then I will see you there safely, Vera said, and she knelt down on one knee right there in the cargo hold, her fist pressed to her chest in what was clearly a formal gesture. This I swear by the old oaths. Your life is worth more than mine, dragon marked. My name is Owen, he said quietly. Just Owen. Vera smiled, showing sharp teeth. No, little one. You are far more than just anything. Over the next 2 days, as they traveled toward the forbidden reaches, strange things started happening. Owen's powers were growing stronger and more unpredictable. When he got frustrated with a locked storage container, his eyes flared and the lock melted. When he concentrated on Leo's stress during a difficult navigation, he could suddenly feel the pilot's emotions like they were his own, see them as colors surrounding Leo's body. Blue for concentration. Yellow for worry. Red for fear. This is getting stronger, Owen said one evening, staring at his hands. I can feel things I shouldn't be able to feel. Know things I shouldn't know. Vera was teaching him some basic meditation techniques, trying to help him control the power. The bond is forming, she explained. Even across the distance, Azarenth is connecting with you. By the time we arrive, you'll be halfway to joining before you even meet. What if I can't control it? Owen asked. What if I hurt someone? Then you learn, Vera said simply. Power without control is dangerous. But fear of your own power is worse. The dragons never feared what they were. Neither should you. On the third day, they reached the edge of the forbidden reaches. What they found made even Leo go pale. An asteroid field so dense it looked like a solid wall of rock stretched across space in every direction. Millions of chunks of stone and ice, some small as pebbles, others large as buildings, all spinning and colliding in a deadly dance. There's no way through that, Leo said flatly. Our sensors can't map a safe path. Would be crushed in minutes. But Owen stepped up to the viewport and placed his hands on the glass. His eyes blazed brighter than they ever had before, and suddenly he could see it, the path through the chaos. Every gap, every opening, every safe passage lit up in his mind like a glowing road. I know the way, he said, his voice layered with harmonics that made everyone turn to stare. "He's showing me. Just fly where I tell you." "Owen, you can't possibly," Daniel started. "Trust me, Dad," Owen interrupted. "Please. He's helping. I can feel him guiding me." Leo looked at Daniel, who looked at Rebecca, who stared at their son with tears in her eyes. Finally, Daniel nodded. "Do it," he said. Owen closed his eyes and let the dragon's presence fill his mind completely. Forward. 30 degrees left. Speed up. Now right. No, hard right. Faster. Leo followed the instructions exactly, his hands flying over the controls even as sweat poured down his face. The ship dove and weaved through the asteroid field, rocks missing them by meters, sometimes by centimeters. It should have been impossible. But Owen could see every obstacle before it appeared, could feel the safe path like it was painted in golden light. After 20 terrifying minutes, they broke through the field, and everyone let out breaths they'd been holding. Ahead of them, a planet appeared, beautiful and untouched, covered in silver forests and crystalline mountains that caught the light of its distant sun. Ancient ruins dotted the surface, massive structures built for creatures far larger than humans. "The dragon's home," Vera whispered with reverence. "I never thought I'd see it." As they descended, Owen felt his heart pounding. The pull was overwhelming now, so strong it almost hurt. Every cell in his body was screaming that he was close, so close to something he'd been missing his entire life without knowing it. The ship landed in a clearing near the largest structure, a temple carved from a single mountain, with steps wide enough for giants leading up to a dark entrance. Owen walked down the ramp on shaking legs, his parents and Vera right behind him. The moment his feet touched the ground, he fell to his knees, gasping. The presence was crushing. Ancient beyond measure. Powerful enough to shake the planet. And deeply, impossibly sad. "He's here," Owen managed to say through tears he didn't understand. "He's been waiting so long." Vera helped him to his feet. "Then let's not make him wait any longer." Together, they climbed the temple steps, and with every step, Owen felt like he was walking toward his destiny, toward answers, toward power, toward something that would change him forever. The entrance loomed before them, dark and enormous and terrifying. Owen took a deep breath, his golden eyes blazing in the shadows. Then he walked inside to meet a dragon. The temple steps were massive, each one coming up to Owen's knees, forcing him to climb rather than walk. His legs burned by the time they reached the top, but he barely noticed. The pull was so strong now that it felt like a hand wrapped around his heart, tugging him forward. The entrance was a giant archway carved with symbols that seemed to shift and move in the corner of his vision. When Owen looked directly at them, they were just stone. But when he looked away, he could swear they were glowing, alive somehow. "These are dragon words," Vera whispered, running her scaled fingers over the carvings with reverence. "I can't read them, but my ancestors could. They tell the story of the bonding, of humans and dragons becoming something greater together." Daniel had his arm around Rebecca, both of them looking small and frightened but determined. Leo stayed close to the entrance, his hand on his weapon, his eyes darting around like he expected something to jump out at them. Owen stepped through the archway, and the world changed. The temple was impossibly huge inside, far bigger than the mountain it was carved from, like the space itself didn't follow normal rules. The ceiling stretched up into darkness so high that Owen couldn't see where it ended. Massive pillars held up the impossible weight, each one carved with more of those shifting symbols. And in the center of it all, coiled in a space that seemed to bend reality around him, was Azarenth. Owen stopped breathing. The dragon was beyond massive. His body was coiled like a sleeping cat, but even curled up, he was larger than Leo's entire ship. Scales of deep blue and silver covered him, each one the size of a shield, dulled with age but still beautiful. His wings were folded against his sides, membranes that looked thin as paper but were probably strong as steel. Horns rose from his head like a crown, twisted and ancient. And his eyes, when they slowly opened, were exactly like Owen's. Golden with vertical slits, glowing with inner light that had been burning for thousands upon thousands of years. At last, a voice filled Owen's mind, so deep and powerful that it made his bones vibrate. "The last of my children arrives." The voice wasn't spoken out loud. It was pure thought, pure emotion, transmitted directly into Owen's consciousness. And somehow, Owen knew that everyone else could hear it too, because Rebecca gasped and Daniel grabbed her tighter. Owen's legs wouldn't work. He stood frozen, staring up at the creature that had been calling to him across the galaxy. Tears streamed down his face without permission, and he didn't even know why he was crying. "I'm not a dragon," Owen managed to say, his voice cracking. I'm just a kid. I'm just human. The massive head lowered, slowly, carefully, until Azarantha's face was level with Owen. Up close, Owen could see that the dragon looked old, ancient beyond measure. His scales were cracked in places. His breathing was labored. His eyes, despite their glow, held a deep exhaustion. No, little one. You are something better. You are both. Azarantha's voice rumbled through his mind like distant thunder. We did not go extinct as the galaxy believes. We chose a different path. We placed our essence, our very souls, into chosen human bloodlines thousands of years ago. We waited. Waited for a time when the galaxy would be ready to accept what we truly were. Not monsters. Not weapons. But guardians. Protectors. Teachers. Rebecca stepped forward, her voice shaking but determined. What does that mean for my son? What are you going to do to him? Azarantha's eyes shifted to her, and his expression, if a dragon could have expressions, seemed gentle. I will do nothing he does not choose, Mother of the Dragon marked. But the enemy that drove us into hiding has awakened. They have sensed him across the stars. Even now, they come. As if the universe itself was listening, alarms suddenly blared from outside. Leo ran to the entrance, looked up at the sky, and his face went white. Ships, he shouted. 30, no, 40 ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They are launching assault pods. Vera pulled her blades from her back, her face grim. Voidborn. The Machine Collective. I've heard stories, but I never thought I'd see them. Azarenth tried to rise, his massive body uncurling, but he moved slowly, painfully. Owen could see the effort it took just to lift his head fully. I am too weak to fight them alone, the dragon said, and for the first time, Owen heard fear in that ancient voice. 10,000 years of waiting has drained me. I have barely enough strength left to draw breath. Then we run, Daniel said. We get back to the ship and we... There's nowhere to run, Leo interrupted, still watching the sky. Those ships are voidborn hunters. They don't stop. They don't negotiate. They just eliminate organic life wherever they find it. Owen felt something stirring inside him, something that wasn't quite him but wasn't quite separate either. It was anger, ancient and hot. It was protectiveness. It was the memory of 1,000 battles fought across the stars. Then I'll help you, Owen said, looking up at Azarenth. Tell me what to do. Show me how. The dragon's eyes brightened with something that might have been hope. The bonding ritual. We would merge our consciousness, share our strength. But child, you must understand, it will change you forever. You will never be simply human again. You will carry my memories, my power, my very essence within you. And when I die, which will be soon, that essence will remain. You will become the bridge between what was and what will be. Outside, explosions rocked the temple. The Voidborn were landing. Rebecca grabbed Owen's shoulders, turning him to face her. Her eyes were red with tears, but her voice was steady. Baby, you don't have to do this. We can find another way. There is no other way, Mom, Owen said softly. This is why I was born. This is what these eyes mean. I felt it my whole life, like I was waiting for something. This is it. Daniel pulled both of them into a hug, his own tears falling freely. We're so proud of you, he whispered. Whatever happens, we're so proud. Owen turned back to Azarenth. The dragon had lowered his massive head to the ground, his forehead touching the stone floor. Come, little brother. Let us become what we were always meant to be. Owen walked forward on shaking legs. Behind him, Vera moved to guard the entrance, her blades ready. Leo checked his weapon and stood beside her. His parents held each other, watching with expressions of terror and love mixed together. Owen reached Azarenth and placed his small hand on the dragon's forehead, between those ancient eyes. The connection was instant and overwhelming. 10,000 years of memory slammed into Owen's mind all at once. He saw the glory days of the dragons, when they soared through hundreds of skies, protecting thousands of worlds. He felt the joy of bonding with humans, of finding creatures who matched their strength with compassion and creativity. He experienced the terror of the Voidborn War, when the Machine Collective tried to eliminate all organic life in the galaxy. He lived through the desperate decision to hide, to sleep, to wait in bloodlines until the galaxy was ready. And he felt Azarentha's loneliness. 10,000 years of waiting alone, watching his brothers and sisters fade into human DNA, feeling his own strength ebb away year by year, century by century. Hoping that one day, just one day, a child would be born who could carry the legacy forward. The pain was unimaginable. Owen screamed, his body convulsing as power he couldn't comprehend flooded through him. His skin rippled, scales appearing and disappearing like waves. His bones felt like they were breaking and reforming. His eyes blazed so bright that everyone had to look away. Wings of pure energy erupted from his back, golden and blue, stretching 50 feet in every direction. His scream transformed into something else, a roar that shook the temple walls, that echoed with harmonics no human throat should produce. And then, suddenly, the pain stopped. Owen stood there, breathing hard, his body smoking slightly. He looked human still, mostly. But scales shimmered beneath his skin like armor. His eyes burned with power that would never dim again. And the wings, those incredible wings of pure energy, folded against his back, waiting. He looked at his hands and saw his fingers had grown slight claws that retracted as he watched. He felt Azarentha's presence in his mind, not separate anymore, but merged. Part of him. Forever part of him. We are one now, Azarentha's voice echoed through their shared consciousness. Human and dragon. Neither alone. Both together. Another explosion, closer this time. The Voidborn had reached the temple entrance. Owen turned toward the sound, and his merged voice, human and dragon speaking as one, rumbled through the chamber. Protect my family, Vera. I'll handle the machines. Then he launched himself toward the entrance, wings spreading wide, moving faster than any human should be able to move. Because he wasn't just human anymore. He was dragon-touched. And it was time to show the Voidborn what that meant. Owen burst through the temple entrance, and what he saw made him understand why the Voidborn were feared across the galaxy. The sky was filled with them. Hundreds of machines descending like a metal rain, geometric shapes of black steel that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. No eyes, no faces, just cold angular bodies covered in weapons. They moved with perfect coordination, like parts of a single organism, all focused on one goal: eliminate the organic life they detected. For a moment, Owen felt overwhelming fear. He was 12 years old. What could he possibly do against an army? But then Azarentha's memories flooded through him, and he remembered. He remembered fighting these same enemies 10,000 years ago. Remembered their weaknesses, their patterns, their tactics. The fear didn't disappear, but it was joined by something else, confidence born from ancient experience. A group of 5 Voidborn machines spotted him and opened fire immediately. Energy bolts screamed through the air, enough firepower to vaporize a building. Owen's wings snapped open instinctively, and the bolts hit them and simply stopped. The energy dissipated against the glowing membrane like rain against a shield. He felt the impacts, but they didn't hurt. His wings were stronger than any armor. He didn't think about what came next. His body just knew. He opened his mouth and dragon fire poured out, white-hot flames that weren't just heat but something more, something that burned on a level the machines couldn't adapt to. 3 Voidborn melted instantly, their bodies turning to slag. The other 2 tried to scatter, but Owen was already moving. He flew, actually flew, his wings carrying him forward with speed that made everything blur. His hand lashed out, claws extended, and tore through a machine's central core like it was paper. The 5th machine swiveled to target him, but Owen could see its calculations, predict its movements like he was reading its mind. He dodged before it even fired and hit it with another stream of fire. But more were coming. So many more. 20 machines converged on him from different angles, their weapons all firing at once. Owen folded his wings and dropped like a stone, the energy bolts passing through the space where he'd been. He hit the ground in a crouch, then launched himself upward, spinning as he rose. Fire poured from him in a circle, a ring of destruction that caught a dozen machines and sent them tumbling from the sky in pieces. Inside the temple, Vera stood at the entrance with her blades ready, watching the battle with wide eyes. "He's not just fighting them," she whispered in awe. "He's dancing with them." Rebecca clutched Daniel's arm, tears streaming down her face as she watched her son, her baby, move through the air like he'd been born with wings. "That's still Owen, right? Please tell me that's still our son." "It is," Daniel said, though his own voice shook. "It's Owen with something more. But still Owen." Leo was frantically working on his communication device. "We've got bigger problems. A massive ship just entered orbit, 10 times larger than all the others combined. It's powering up some kind of main weapon." Owen felt it too, sensed the enormous energy signature building above him. He looked up through the swarm of smaller machines and saw it, a Voidborn capital ship, a geometric nightmare of black metal and deadly technology. Its main cannon was charging, gathering enough power to crack the planet in half. 30 more machines surrounded him, and this time they were different, larger, more heavily armed, adapted from the data the first wave had sent back before dying. They attacked in perfect synchronization, a wall of energy fire that no defense could stop. But Owen didn't defend. He dove straight into them. His body became a weapon. Claws tore through metal. Fire melted circuits. His tail, when had he grown a tail, whipped around and smashed a machine into two others. He moved with precision that was impossible, human creativity combined with dragon instinct. Every strike was exactly where it needed to be. Every dodge was timed perfectly. And he was angry. Angry for all the years of hiding, of being afraid, of being treated like a monster. Angry for the dragons who'd been forced into extinction. Angry that these lifeless machines thought they could decide what deserved to exist. The machines kept coming, and Owen kept destroying them. 50. 60. 70. His body was tireless, fueled by power that felt infinite. But in his mind, he felt Azarenth growing weaker. The dragon had given everything to the bonding, and now his ancient body was finally letting go. The ship, Azarentha's voice whispered in their shared consciousness. The capital ship must be destroyed or this world dies. You must become the fire itself. Owen understood immediately, the knowledge flowing from Azarentha's memories. There was a technique, something the ancient dragons had used only in the most desperate situations. It would require channeling all their power at once, becoming pure energy for just a moment. It would kill Azarenth. The strain would be too much for his failing body. I know, little brother. The dragon's voice was gentle, accepting. This is what I've been waiting for. Not to survive, but to pass the legacy to one who will carry it forward. Do not mourn me. I die fulfilling my purpose. Owen felt tears streaming down his face even as he fought. I'm not ready. I don't know how to do this without you. You already know everything you need. It's in your blood now. In your soul. And I will never truly leave you. Every time you fly, every time you breathe fire, every time you protect those who cannot protect themselves, I will be there. The capital ship's weapon reached full charge. A beam of pure destruction lanced down from orbit, aimed directly at the temple where Owen's family huddled. Owen didn't think. He flew straight up, positioning himself between the beam and the ground. His wings spread wide, and he pulled on every bit of power he had access to, his own, Azarentha's, the energy flowing through their bond. His body transformed. For just a moment, he wasn't a boy with dragon features. He became dragon fire itself, a being of pure energy, golden and blue and impossibly bright. The beam hit him, and instead of destroying him, it was absorbed. Redirected. Owen became a conduit, taking all that destructive power and sending it back tenfold. The beam turned around, climbing back up to the sky with Owen riding inside it, his body still transformed into living fire. He hit the capital ship's hull and punched straight through it, melting everything he touched. Core systems exploded. The main reactor went critical. Owen burst out the other side of the ship as it began tearing itself apart behind him. The smaller machines, losing their command ship, froze in confusion for just a moment. That was all Owen needed. He spread his wings, his normal wings again, he was himself again, and released one final burst of dragon fire in all directions. The sky cleared. Every remaining void-born machine fell from the air, dead or dying. Owen descended slowly, exhausted beyond anything he'd ever felt. His feet touched the ground outside the temple, and he stumbled, nearly falling. Vera caught him, her strong arms keeping him upright. You did it, Dragon touched. You actually did it. Rebecca and Daniel rushed out, grabbing their son in a desperate hug. Owen hugged them back, but his eyes were distant, looking inward. He's gone, Owen whispered. Azarenth. I can't feel him anymore. But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't quite true. The dragon's presence had faded, his ancient body finally releasing its last breath back in the temple. But something of him remained in Owen, in his memories, his instincts, his power. Azarenth hadn't died. He transformed, becoming a permanent part of the boy he'd been calling to across the galaxy. 3 months later, Owen stood before the Galactic Council Assembly, the largest gathering of alien species in the galaxy. Thousands of representatives filled the chamber, all staring at the human boy with glowing golden eyes. Inspector Moss sat in the back, no longer an inspector. He'd been stripped of his position after what happened. The council couldn't ignore what Owen had done. He'd saved an entire planet from void-born destruction. He was a hero, not a threat. Owen's voice was steady as he spoke, carried throughout the chamber by microphones. There are others like me. Humans born with dragon eyes, scattered across human colonies. They are hiding because they are afraid. Afraid of people like Inspector Moss, who see them as threats instead of what they really are, the next step in an ancient partnership. He let his wings manifest, the golden energy spreading from his back. Gasps echoed through the chamber. I'm going to find them. All of them. I'm going to teach them what they are, help them understand their power. The dragons didn't go extinct. They evolved. They merged with us. And now it's time to stop hiding what that means. The council had no choice but to accept. They granted Owen official status as guardian of the dragon touched, gave him resources and authority to seek out others with the dragon mark. Rebecca and Daniel bought a real ship, a beautiful vessel they named Azarantha's Legacy. Vera joined as head of security, refusing to leave Owen's side. Even Leo decided to stay on as their pilot, claiming he was too invested in the story to quit now. Owen stood at the viewport as they left council space, his hand pressed against the glass. His eyes reflected in the transparent surface, golden, powerful, eternal. Somewhere on a colony world, a 10-year-old girl with amber eyes sat alone in her room, afraid of what she was becoming. Somewhere else, a teenage boy with emerald-slit pupils was running from authorities who wanted to lock him up. Owen felt them. All of them. The scattered children of the Dragon Legacy, alone and frightened and thinking they were the only ones. I'm coming, he whispered, knowing somehow they could feel him too. You're not alone anymore. You never have to be alone again. Behind him, his mother smiled through tears. Their son would never have a normal life. He'd never be just a regular kid going to regular school, worrying about regular problems. But he'd be something better. He'd be the bridge between humans and dragons, proof that two species could become one, proof that the best of both could create something the galaxy had never seen before. The first dragon touched. The guardian of a legacy 10,000 years old. But most importantly, he was still Owen, a boy who loved his family, who remembered being scared and alone, who would make sure no other kid with dragon eyes ever felt that way again. The ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying them toward their first rescue mission. Owen's wings folded gently against his back, ready for whatever came next. The dragons hadn't died. They'd just been waiting for the right moment to return. And now, finally, that moment had arrived.